Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for the last Champions League Semi Final preview of the season. I say that, it's only the second one, but that's how Champions League works. It's two legs. So, the last Champions League Semi Final preview of the season ahead of hopefully making a Champions League final preview in about a month's time. As you can see on screen, we're already joined by two very special guests. Matisse will be joining us very, very shortly. He just texted me that he's just getting home. So, just finishing setting up, and he'll be here in a couple of minutes, I presume. Lewis should be joining us towards the end as well. So we have a lot of fun in store today. We're going to analyze Real Madrid. We're going to quickly kind of recap on the first leg, because obviously we'll have a bit of an influence on tomorrow's game. We'll discuss the injury news, both on Real Madrid and Chelsea side. We'll discuss how we should line up, how we might line up, and, how the game will go. And obviously, hopefully, a little bit of fun and chat in between. Like I said, joined by two very special guests already. Mr. The Grand Dam. Man's making the return to come on the channel more regularly again. I'm very pleased. Dammy, first of all, how you been? And how you feeling ahead of tomorrow?
I'm good, innit? Man is back on the channel once again. Like I said, man was ill in it. So man is recovering in that. I'm coming from. So we're back on healthy settings. Going up against Real Madrid tomorrow, let's pattern their blood clots, fam. You know what I'm saying? Let's not give these man 1 ounce of space tomorrow. Am I feeling confident once again? I spewed out all my negativity last week for the people to absorb and take in. So I'm calm. You know what I'm saying? I'm relaxed. I'm easy. I feel like I've just gone to the spa, and that's a lie because I went to the gym and my arm is hurting. But once again, like, man is relaxing in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm on chill settings and whatnot. Expecting us to shaft Real Madrid tomorrow. So, yeah, I should be smoking the Cuban cigar tomorrow, innit? You know what I'm saying? That's what we should be doing. No stress settings at all, bro.
Cuban cigars, smoking something anyway. I mean,
Nah, pack it in, fam. Pack it in. You can't be serious. Pack it in, fam. Nah.
Only legal things, of course. I don't know what you're thinking. I literally told Alex, like, before we went live as well, I just seen that Florentino Perez actually had the balls to travel to London. I'm like, man's living on the edge. And maybe there's another protest tomorrow just for Florentino Perez himself. We're joined by our next guest, but before we get to Matisse, let me quickly introduce, of course, Mr. EuroExpert Alex. Thank you for coming on again. He'll share some more lovely insights on Real Madrid with us, and then obviously we'll discuss the whole game. First of all, Alex, how you doing? And secondly, how are you feeling ahead of tomorrow's game?
Doing really good, thank you very much. I know some people might be coming here after. I was just on Lewis's stream where they saw me laugh at Thibaut Courtois and laugh at Johnny Boy Blue for saying Mount is going to be a bigger legend than Frank Lampard, which is a very bold claim. But I'm back here very bold claim. But back here to talk a bit more about Madrid, talk a bit more about the numbers and more facts, and yeah, feeling very excited for it. And for the game tomorrow, it's going to be a slightly less pragmatic game. I'm looking forward to watching it. So the result and who will win, I guess we'll have to wait till later in the stream to find out who I think will win that game.
It is definitely going to be interesting because Madrid will most certainly be less pragmatic than they were, in particular in the second half. I don't think in the first half they were all that pragmatic. Well, they were just bad because they played an unnecessarily high line, you could say. But let's see what Chelsea do tomorrow, because obviously Thomas Tuchel keeps going on about, we're going to approach the game as if it was 0-0. I'm like, but are you really? I don't believe it, because he didn't do that against Porto either. So I don't believe it for tomorrow either. So let's see how that will go. Matisse is just getting ready. I can see his little screen at the bottom, but I'll give the man a second to get ready before I let you guys see his beautiful face. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Whether you're watching this right now or you're watching this at a later point when this live stream has turned into a video, we're getting ever closer to 10,000 subscribers. We're pretty much 400 away at this point. So get that done. We can get there by the end of the season. That'd be absolutely brilliant. And look who seems to be ready. Mr. Matisse Amami, bro. How you doing? How you been? How you feeling ahead of tomorrow, bro?
Man, lateness is greatness. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just had to take care of a couple of things, but I'm looking forward to the game. I'm really excited and nervous, obviously. But listen, this is our first, semi-final since 13-14 season, where we've got a lot of young, hungry players, inexperienced players, and they are on the brink of reaching the third final in our history. We've been to a lot of semi-finals, but we've been knocked out a lot as well. So I'm excited, man. But it's going to be a long night.
Oh, it really will be a long night, and it's going to be a tense night, tense day tomorrow. I don't know how you guys are feeling in terms of like bricking it already. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. By the way, welcome everybody in the chat. I appreciate all of you guys. I see a lot of people there. Joseph, Firestarter, Yupped Up, of course, Kino. Appreciate all of you as always. And like Matisse just mentioned, a couple of weeks ago, obviously when we got passports and qualified for the semi-finals, the stat was everywhere. Like we're now the most, the English team with the most Champions League semi-final appearances. I'm like, well, that's kind of irrelevant. Like it's all well and good in that, but that just means we lost more Champions League semi-finals than all the others because we made less finals. So I'm not a fan of this, to be honest. Like let's at least get one more final appearance as well. But obviously, at the same time, you'd probably rather lose a semi-final than you lose a final at the end of the day. But it's a difficult one. Damn me quickly before we do some other talking. First of all, man always turns up with the listen, right? What do we really have to listen to today? What's the most important thing for Chelsea to do tomorrow?
Oh, listen. Tomorrow we just can't mess about. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's got to be. I back Tuchel's game plan any day of the week, honestly speaking. When it comes to him choosing the correct team, choosing the correct tactics, choosing the correct players, I'll back him. If I see Alonso tomorrow starting up front, I might lose a few hairs on my head. But then again, I'm going to have to back him because he doesn't miss. You know what I'm saying? So once again, for me, I just need to make sure that Chelsea defensively, because that's the one thing I know that we've got down. And I said this to Matisse last week. When it comes to defending, that is the one thing where I can put £1,000 on, because that's what Chelsea do on a consistent basis, week in, week out, game in, game out. So that's one thing we need to make sure that we do properly tomorrow. Real Madrid are going to come in with so much smoke, it's not even going to be real. Last time, we didn't kill off the dead dog. Now they are coming back barking with their new chains and their new leashes and everything. They're going to come in and actually going to try and beat us up. You've got the likes of Eden Hazard potentially playing as well. I believe he played against, who was it recently? I don't know if I think he played his last game. I think he started the last game.
Osasuna,
Osasuna. I think he played as number 10 or on the wing. I can't remember. He played that game. You've got Mendy coming back into the fray as well. Mendy's very, very, very effective going up and down the pitch. You've got Benzema. We all know what he's made of. You've got Vinicius Jr. You've got Sergio Ramos coming back into the fray as well. And we all know how he can be on set pieces. He's the one that crucified Atletico Madrid in that last final. They were very close and he came in and did that. So not only have they got all those big attackers, they've also got experienced big attackers who've done it in many Champions League finals before. So for me, we just need to make sure that we don't slip. Don't put a foot wrong. I'm not going to come out and say we need to be on smoke for attack or we need to make sure Werner doesn't play. I'm not going to say anything like that. I just feel like we need to make sure that all the things we've been doing excellently well under Tuchel, we need to keep them up against Real Madrid. If not, we're not going to stand the chance.
Like 100%. And I spoke about this with my girlfriend last night, why Alonso isn't starting up top. How Tuchel keeps saying, you defend from the top and you defend as a team. Well, that's why. Because no one would be defending at the top then if Alonso started up top and we'd have no press at all. So, there's a pretty simple explanation there, I suppose. But just quickly, before we move on with the stream, thankfully and brilliantly, I'm actually this month sponsored by OneFootball. So I'm just going to play a little clip, listen to that, check out the link in the description, and I'll see you in a minute. I want to say a massive thank you to OneFootball for partnering up with me and sponsoring my channel. Like the name suggests, it's a football app. And trust me, it's one of the best ones out there. You get all the latest football news from pretty much every single team and league all around the world. Team news, live score updates, league tables, fixture lists, everything you could possibly want to know in the world of football, you find it right there. Never want to miss out on any news surrounding Chelsea again? OneFootball has got you covered. As you can see on screen now, all the news is all there in one place. Whether it's the latest injury news, articles before and after games, or of course, transfer rumors. And with the transfer window actually opening and coming up soon, as well, you'll definitely want to make use of that transfer indicator, which not only tells you about all the rumors out there, it also tells you how likely a certain transfer actually is to happen, which is definitely quite handy during a very busy transfer window, which could be on the horizon for Chelsea. And like I said, it's honestly a brilliant app that I can only recommend downloading with the link down in the description below. And downloading the app with my link also really helps out my channel. And I want to say it again, I really appreciate them sponsoring me. And like I just said, it's a brilliant app that everyone should have on their phone. And all it takes is literally a few seconds to click that link down in the description below. Doesn't matter whether you're an iPhone or Android. I download the app right there with that link. So again, go down below into the description and download the OneFootball app with my link right now. So that was that. Brilliant. Like I said a couple of times, probably a couple too many times. Check out the link in the description. But let's get to Alex. And obviously we discussed, Real Madrid before the first leg with you. And obviously Real Madrid did something that very few people, including Thomas Tuchel, did not see coming. Them turning up with a 5 at the back formation, even though they played it every now and again during the season already. It wasn't necessarily expected. Okay, maybe some of the players that were missing kind of forced them into that a tad. Maybe it was also them trying to mirror our formation because maybe they had a little bit, maybe too much is the wrong word, but a lot of respect for us, shall we say. First of all, do you think they will do that again tomorrow? And secondly, maybe you followed this a little bit more than myself. Was Real Madrid, were people in Spain happy with this result, or were they really disappointed that they only got a draw?
It's a couple of good questions there. I think first thing to start is that I don't think they'll be playing a back 5 or a back 3 again this time. I mean, it was a bit of a surprise because Madrid in their big games have mainly played a 4-3-3 to get the best out of midfield. And whether it was about mirroring Chelsea, maybe it was about coping with the injuries. What it was Zidane doing what he's done all season and trying to use tactical nous to deal with his squad's deficiencies or the opposition. And it horrifically went down because after the commentators and BT Sport, they may have had you believe that Madrid only switched back to a back 4 when Marcelo came off, but it was really clear after 10 minutes. Zidane said, get into a back 4 now, and Marcelo was more in midfield after that. They were immediately Nacho's pushing back out to left back. So I don't think they'll be returning to it for this. For the next leg. And just remind me of the second part of your question there, because I lost myself in my own words.
Basically, were people in Spain, was Real Madrid disappointed with the result, or were they happy, or what were their feelings? It
was so with Spain, obviously the main Spanish news you get is through Marca, that are heavily biased to Madrid. So they're trying to spin this or trying to put this out. And Zidane also kind of said it was a fair result, 1-1 draw. In the same way to Tuchel, I guess, we can start again. This is a good platform for Madrid to go to Chelsea and win the game. And in fact, Marca, it's funny you asked this, Marca did say that Madrid are apparently locked and loaded to go to Chelsea and get a result. Whether that's true or not, because their reasons were that, Eden Hazard's back and Ferland Mendy's back, and this means Madrid would definitely win. Whether those reasons are concrete, I think I have a bit more to say about as we get further into the stream.
It's an interesting one, really, because, we were all over Madrid for literally the entire first half, you could say, aside from when they scored their stupid goal, because we just cannot defend short corners to save our lives. I think it was the 5th time we conceded from a short corner this season, which is ridiculous in itself, under 2 different managers as well. So I'm like, what are we doing? But other than that, whether they were playing in a back 3 like the first 10, 15 minutes, or whether they were playing in a back 4 like after that, but obviously with not a real fullback with Nacho Fernandez at left back, especially a right-footed actual centre-back at left back, not ideal now, is it? But, we were all over them. And then in the second half, they just realised that we just need to sit a bit deeper, and then they can't just constantly destroy us with pace. And, then we struggled a little bit more. And obviously, it was kind of a bit of a ball fest in the second half, if we're going to be totally honest with you. But Matisse, especially in hindsight of the first leg, how do you think the second leg will go? And how do you especially think Chelsea should approach it? Because we have that away goal, but it's if it was a 2-2, it's a different discussion, right? But a 1-1, is it enough to say try for a 0-0, or should we just kind of go all out and maybe surprise them with how aggressive we are?
No, it's not enough. Absolutely not. A 1-1 result is not enough to be sitting back and resting on your laurels. That first leg, yes, we played very well, but they were missing a few players, and we didn't kill them off. So this team, they need to kind of approach this game like it's 0-0. It's going to be very tight all game. It's going to be very, very tight. I don't expect there to be loads of goals. I think it's going to be a chess match throughout. I think it's going to be very cautious from both managers. Real Madrid don't have to commit bodies forward. They only need 1 goal, so they don't have to commit. This is the difference between Man City's result, which is what we deserve to get out in Madrid, and the result that we picked up. Because if we got their result, it's a completely different ball game. They would have needed to score 2 goals. 1-0 would not take them through either. And they would have had to come out all guns blazing and really push for the away goal. Now they don't have to do that. They really just have to like I said, keep it tight, chess match. And if you're going into the final 20 minutes and it's still 0-0, it's going to be very, very nervy. It's not a position that you want to really be in. And I have to add as well, Chelsea have not had to come from behind much under Thomas Tuchel. I've said this before. The only time we've gone behind is that Southampton game, which we drew. Thomas Tuchel's teams have been scoring first or not scoring at all. So if we used to go a goal down because we're resting on our laurels and we're not trying to be progressive and get the goal, we're going to be in some serious, serious shit. We need to score first, and we need to really be defensively solid how we have been the whole time and aim for that clean sheet. But we have to make sure we get a goal. You don't want to be 0-0 with these guys going into the final stage of the game. We saw what happened against Porto. You know, we still conceded in the end at the end with the bicycle kick. So you don't want that situation to come again.
No, you really don't. And it's one of those, I just feel we need to get through the first 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. Just make sure you don't concede there, because the one thing I'm worried about is if Madrid get an early goal. Because like we all of us have touched on this, right? And everyone, whether it's all the journalists, Tuchel, everybody has touched on this. Madrid have experience at this level. We do not. If they take the lead, that's when we're in deep trouble. As long as we keep them out, you know, we get our chances. But as soon as they're in a position where they're kind of through, that's when we're in trouble. So we need to, especially for the first 10, 15 minutes for me, need to make sure we don't concede, even if that means dropping a little bit deeper than we usually would. I think it's really important we do not concede an early goal, because I think that could be the death of us personally. I quickly actually want to touch on this, and Melinda put in a comment here as well, because Chelsea literally this minute released a statement on the, publicly, and actually announced, and I'll just read it out for you quickly, saying Chelsea Football Club announces that as from July 1st, there will be a supporter presence at the club's board meetings. 3 supporter advisors picked through an election and selection process will attend board meetings to ensure general supporter sentiment is considered as part of the club's decision-making. Obviously, there's a longer article with that. But generally, I would say brilliant, right? Do we all agree, Danny?
Of course. They've learned from what's gone on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, once again, Abramovich is just reinstating and letting people know. And obviously, I know this was a board decision as well, but he is in this for the fundamentals of the game. He's in this as a fan of the game. He's a fan of the club. So for me, this coming now, big up to Chelsea, because they knew that they messed up as a club when they got into the Super League. Peer pressure, Man City did this, whoever. Looking at my club and how we've done that, this is actually really nice. Getting 3 representatives at the board meetings will definitely have a bigger influence. And like, obviously, I'm curious to see how the selection process goes down, because I'm not trying to see certain individuals at those supporter positions. You know, I'm coming from, because you could have some really rogue people on there. I'm not going to drop any names or acts, you know what I'm saying? But it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But that's one step closer to having a better relationship with the board. That's direct. You know what I'm saying? You want to have that strong direct relationship with your board. Look how they do things in Germany. Look how Bayern Munich have things. Look how Dortmund do things. And those clubs do really well. The people that can tell you the best most sometimes are the fans, because we watch it week in, week out. Some of them board members don't watch it week in, week out. They do watch a lot of them, but not every single time. So, of course, I'm happy to see that. I'm just curious to see how things actually unfold and who gets elected and how what else it entails. You know what I mean? I need to read more into it and see how it goes. But from the looks of things on the surface level, it looks quite good.
I was going to say, you mentioned that. Darry was kind of saying what I was thinking. Just going one step further, I think it's now only a matter of time until we see Rory Jennings launch a campaign and say, "Get me in front of Roman Abramovich on the board meetings."
Man is dropping names.
Not me. I'm not the one that said it. You know,
there's nothing wrong with Rory. I'm just commenting on how he's doesn't really like Abramovich at the moment. So I think he'll be leading a strong campaign to get in front of him, which will be funny. But yeah, that's a good move from Chelsea.
I think so as well. Matisse,
it's a good move. I hope there's some diversity on the board, because it's all well and good them reacting to the Super League thing, which they have, but there's still the small matter of getting racism out of football, which they better be paying attention to, because they've really just did the social media boycott, and if I'm honest, it's not done anything. In my opinion, it hasn't done anything. It certainly hasn't stopped racial abuse. People have been getting it over the weekend, and whether Jack from Twitter has even noticed that they've gone on a boycott is again an up for question. I think that clubs are a lot more powerful, or can be a lot more powerful in their approach on this stance than they're playing out. silence for a few days. You can't tell me that's the most powerful tool in your armor as massive institutions. So they need to sort themselves out, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree personally as well with that. I mean, I don't want to make it too much of a political discussion, but at the end of the day, it's like, how is not talking about things for a weekend going to make things better? But it's maybe a discussion for a different day. But what's for sure is that the problem hasn't stopped, and it needs more work, and it needs more maybe a slightly different approach to try and stop it. Whether that will ever be possible, I don't know. But just because something seems difficult doesn't mean you can't try.
I don't want to cut you off, and I don't want to be that guy, but it's not even about stopping, because there's nothing these clubs can do. Racism is a deep-rooted problem, you know what I'm saying? When you pop over to Stamford Bridge and want to get a pint from one of the shops, you got your fat bastard from Sussex cussing you out because of your skin color. You know I'm coming from? That isn't going to be stopped by boycotting racism or boycotting Twitter.com or boycotting Instagram. That's not going to happen. All we are asking for is for these companies to take it more seriously, for them to actually make some noise. I was doing the boycott till I caught racism in my DMs. I was like, you know what, screw it. That's none of my business. I don't care no more. Do you know what I'm saying? Because he didn't do nothing. That person, I didn't even drop the person's at on anything because I don't have time for that sort of drama on my TL. But do you catch what I'm saying? So the boycott, yeah, they did the boycott. They didn't tweet and put our Instagram post for a few days, but it didn't change anything. Do you know what I mean? What we need right now is we need these social media platforms to take it more seriously themselves. And like Matisse said, they have more power than they think they do. These clubs have way more power and more influence than they think they do. So until some serious things start taking place, they can boycott for the next 2 weeks, bro. Nothing will change.
Yeah, that's the thing. At the end of the day, we're down there with the Super League. As soon as money is a problem, that's when everyone starts, making a fuss. That's when the Premier League started making a fuss, or the other clubs started making a fuss, because they were like, oh, we might lose money if these lot make the European Super League. Obviously, us fans had a different reason why we were against it. But let's not kid ourselves. The reason why the rest of the Premier League and why Sky was against it is because they were worried about losing money, right? So until Twitter, Instagram, whatever else, start losing money because, what people do try to do against them not acting upon racist or any kind of abuse, right? Until then, probably nothing will change, as drastic as that is. And probably Chelsea not tweeting for 3 days, or all the Premier League clubs not tweeting for 3 days, probably doesn't cost Twitter any money. So that's kind of where the problem lies. But like I said, I don't want to make it too political because it's just a difficult discussion to find the ideal words for, especially when you're live and you're kind of thinking about things on the spot. It's a minefield, shall we say? It's a minefield. Let's get back and try to focus on Chelsea against Real Madrid, because it's the biggest game in 7 years. It's Chelsea's biggest game in 7 years by far. It's not even close, right? And Thomas Tuchel, the Chelsea players, they could really make history tomorrow. Obviously, it's not enough to make the Champions League final. We know how that went in 2008. It's not fun. You might as well not have got there if you lose it in the end, because it's just dreadful. But you still need to get there first so you have a chance to win it. You need to give yourself the chance to win it. And unlike Nizar Kinsella today in the press conference, where he had to remind Andreas Christensen of his mistake against Barcelona, I'm like, that was unnecessary. Let's focus on positives, right? Let's focus on positives, because we've been brilliant, right? I'm sure all of you guys have seen the stats of, the Thomas Tuchel Chelsea remontada, right? Of where we are in all of the stats ever since he's taken over. We're first in every stat other than scoring goals. Yeah. Hence why I tweeted, well, give us the striker and we're winning the quadruple next season, because clearly that's facts now, right? So first of all, not just how good have we been, that's maybe a bit boring, but in my opinion, what's been the most impressive thing is how we've stepped it up and how we've gone from one level to another over this 3 and a bit months ever since Thomas Tuchel has taken over. Because obviously that 0-0 draw against Wolves, maybe we shouldn't even look at it, right? Yeah, literally one hour training session before that game started off. But then we just kept grinding out results, right? Then we was all complaining, we need to start scoring more goals, right? Then we had the Crystal Palace game, which was at least one game where we scored more than two. Of course, it would have been lovely had it been more. But the big thing and the big difference to what it was on a Frank before that, at least this season, last season we won those too, but especially this season, we just could not, to save our lives, beat those big teams. But this season we've beaten Spurs. We've beaten Everton, who at the time were right there for top four. We beat Liverpool. What difficult situation they were in at the time or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You need to beat the big teams. I know we didn't beat Manchester United, but we kept them to a 0-0 draw at Stamford Bridge as well. went past Atletico, let's be honest, quite convincingly and quite comfortably. Like, they never really posed much of a threat. The only real threats they posed were the penalty claims. Other than that, did they ever get close to scoring? Not really, right? Porto, yeah, the second leg, yeah. I mean, it's kind of how it goes. If you win the first leg, which officially is away 2-0, the second leg is always going to be a bit of a, you're going to make sure you win the game and blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. And then we go to Real Madrid, and like I touched on already, for the first half an hour, for the first half, it looked like we were playing an amateur side of football. Like, we were so far superior to them. It was actually crazy. Like, I was confident ahead of the game, right? But I never saw coming that we would be so much better. But with that said, Dami has touched on it, especially in the beginning, and Lewis said it on his channel. It's like, if this was any game other than a Champions League semi final, I'd be extremely confident. But because of our lack of experience in that kind of position and their experience in that position, that kind of what puts the spice in it. Because I think in terms of performance, we should be very comfortable getting past Real Madrid. Yeah, I know they're still in the fight for the La Liga title, but they haven't had a great season performance-wise, right? The only one that really has this, in particular, Karim Benzema, maybe Toni Kroos as well, and the others have been in and out of the team. Even Luka Modric at the start of the season wasn't even playing all the time. It was Valverde more, and now everyone's hyping Luka Modric again. Obviously, he's been brilliant the last few weeks, but he's not even been in the starting side all year long, right? So, and Sergio Ramos has been injured half the time, and then kind of good games, bad games every now and again. And Mendy, everyone's now hyping Ferland Mendy as the best left back the world has ever seen. I'm like, have you seen him defend? Like, I know he's good, and I know he's strong, and I know he's quick and that, but have you seen him defend? Like, it's clearly not impossible to score against him. Look at their goals conceded stats in La Liga. It's not great. Other than Atletico, there's no great defense in that league, right? So we should not be terrified of not being able to score against them. I went on a bit of a monologue there. I do apologize, but on all of which I've said, Matisse, it's first of all to kind of reflect on the last couple of months, but also taking that into tomorrow. Like, I know I asked you already how should we approach the game, but on a more deeper scale, if you will, do you think the players will be kind of like confident enough because of the last few months to not get significantly nervous, or do you still think tomorrow will be about more than beating Real Madrid, beating our own nerves?
It's difficult because I must say, in the second leg of both the ties we've played, we took leads into the second game. Atletico Madrid, Porto, we took leads and we hadn't conceded in the first leg. I think it's very difficult to say that they won't be nervous in some capacity because it's the first time a lot of them have reached this stage. Chelsea as a football club have not reached this stage in 7 years. And then on top of that, you look at the players that have been integrated into this team in the last 2 years, the young players, none of them have reached this high pressure situation before. A lot of the seniors haven't. Only really Thiago Silva, Kante, maybe a couple of others have really, felt this pressure before. Thomas Tuchel obviously reached this stage last year as well. So, and there's not, how many of them have Champions League medals in this squad? I don't know. I'm not going to go through it, but there's not many if there is. Do you know what I mean? So
Champions League medals. I think Kovacic is the only one, surely.
Yeah, probably only Kovac. So
and he's injured,
and he's not even fit. So there really is a lack of know-how in terms of these situations. I think the Atletico Madrid game would have helped because it was high pressure and it was a tight fixture, and they had to, mentality-wise, they had to get through it. But this is another level, You're looking at Ramos, you're looking at Kroos, Modric. These guys have been around the block for so long, playing in World Cups, playing in semi-finals, finals, and we can't underestimate the what leadership and know-how does at this stage. We all harp on about the 2012 time. That team was full of people with know-how who had been at this stage before. Drogba, Lampard, players like that who had been to multiple semi-finals and experienced heartbreak in Moscow and came back. So this team is already overachieving in this competition, and there's no way in hell for me that they won't be nervous. How they channel those nerves will be critical. I think Mason Mount, a player like that, will channel those nerves well. And you just have to hope that nobody makes any individual errors and they stay tight. But like we said before, this game is going to be won and lost with how we finish. We're going to create opportunities. We always do. The system is built for us to do that. It's just about whether we take our chances. If we don't take our chances, then we only have ourselves to blame if we go out. Because at the end of the day, we're the reason why we're not ahead. Nothing to do with anything else. And I always said a couple of weeks ago, this team was built on its defense. And the only thing that will let it down in the final stages of competitions will be the attack if they're not clinical enough. Which is why, personally, when I was talking about my front three with Alex earlier, I went with Kai Havertz up front over Timo Werner, because I think Kai's finishing, especially in what's going to be a very tight game. You're telling me there's going to be a couple chances for each team in the first half, potentially 0-0 at half time. If we can get that first goal, it's going to be huge. And I think Kai is just more prolific. And I don't have much patience for anybody missing chances. Yes, Timo runs the channels well. Yes, he creates opportunities. Yes, he creates space for others. But to do all that and then know that if you get a chance, you high percentage that you'll bottle it, for me, is not worth the risk. Kai is very quick, deceptively quick, so we can still play on the counter with him. And I think Kai Pulisic, who's playoff Pulisic at the moment, Mason Mount, they're all very assured in their finishing, or at least a lot more assured than Werner. So you're not going to lose too much, in my opinion, but you're definitely going to gain clinical finishing, which is what's needed at this stage.
I would agree with that. We'll get onto the whole who do we start up top discussion a little bit later. I know Dami has to leave fairly soon because he's got a charity thing going on. Big up yourself for that. So I want to quickly give you the stage to first of all reply to a similar question. Is it more about us beating our own nerves than about beating Real Madrid? Because of what Matisse just said, it is about our strikers taking a chance, because we've kind of built this season's or the last 3-4 months success on our defense. But at the same time, if our defense is, at the very, very best tomorrow, it doesn't really matter whether the attackers score, because we have an away goal. I know you don't want to rely on that, but if the defense are inch perfect and they don't score, it doesn't really matter what the strikers do.
Then again, I don't know about you, boss, but I don't want to be sat at my TV screen looking at it like the last 10 minutes of Porto. Do you know I'm coming from? I don't want to watch football like that from beginning to end. You can talk about it being nice and throw back to Bayern Munich. I was younger then, okay? I was way younger. My heartbeat wasn't a concern in my health. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I want to go through that and any of that fugazi nonsense again. But then again, for me personally, when you break down the whole situation, we are lacking that experience, like Matisse rightfully said. We've got a few people, and that's where the difficulties come in terms of team selection. You've got you're thinking, are you going to play Aspilicueta, but he might get absolutely dismantled by the likes of Hazard and Mendy on the left-hand side, or do you bring in Reece James? People are talking about Thiago Silva being rested. You don't do things like that. He just got out of the Champions League final last year. So this is one of those games where I can't sit down here and confidently tell you that, if Chelsea defend tomorrow, we're going to win the game. Or if Chelsea attack properly tomorrow, we're going to win the game. I can't tell you that, because you're going up against Real Madrid. You're going up against Zinedine Zidane. He's won 3 UCLs back-to-back. How many people have ever done that? And those same players are still there. Ramos has been there and done that. He crucified Atletico Madrid and threw away their chances of winning that trophy. And they went on to beat them 4-1 in the same game. Benzema, we saw what he did in the last game. They had one shot on target. That's all he needed. And he created everything from beginning to end. So we can go with a perfect defense. Thiago Silva can go in tomorrow and drop a 10 out of 10 performance. Our back line could drop a 10 out of 10 performance. And we might still lose the game. So for me, I can't really sit here and say, raw attack needs to be on this. It's all about that Champions League magic. Honestly speaking, it sounds like I'm just saying hope for the best and jump into the team. But that's all we can really hope for. That's all it's got to be. Because in the Champions League, once you get to that semi-final, nothing like your quality definitely plays a part and your experience plays a part. But then that CL magic also plays a part as well. Do you know where I'm coming from? So it's just going to be a very interesting and long game to watch. Obviously, you can talk about Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, like I said on my stream as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he went with Timo Werner up front, because I understand what he does bring to the team in terms of flexibility and changing up his position and being a bit dynamic, even though he doesn't finish. But I would love to see Kai Havertz as well. I'd love to see Christian Pulisic. I'd love to see Mason Mount, because they have shown what they are capable of. But then again, let's see how things unfold. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, right, if Chelsea do this in attack or do this in defense, we're going to be able to beat them all. If Kante does this in midfield, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's Real Madrid. They can do whatever, fam. And we're Chelsea. We can do whatever. Do you know what I mean? So let's see how things unfold, innit?
Exactly. And before I quickly give you the chance to kind of give us the team that you would like to see tomorrow, just before you need to head off, I want to ask Alex quickly, because obviously you touched on that Real Madrid in the first leg, kind of switched away from the back three, right? And put Marcelo into midfield, and therefore then kind of switch into a 4-1-2-1-2, I suppose, if you want to call it that. Do you expect them to do that tomorrow then? Or do you expect them to go back to their almost tried and trusted 4-3-3?
I think they're going to go back to 4-3-3. Just as a quick one, I think 4-3-3 is what they've generally relied on in big games. And I think even if there are tactical tweaks from Zidane to try and cope with Chelsea to rather unlock Chelsea because they were so limited down their favourite left-hand side. It's going to be more or less revolving around a 4-3-3 with the midfield three of Kroos, Modric and Casemiro as they classically generally like to play.
And then you expect Hazard at left wing and Vinicius on the right, because can Vinicius play on the right, or is it between either Hazard or Vinicius if they play a front three?
I'm still leaning towards Hazard not even starting, personally. I don't think he'll start. I think it will still be Vinicius and then Marcus Asensio on the right, because Asensio generally does more disciplined stuff. So he'll be there to make sure Chelsea don't score early on. And then it'll be one of Vinicius or Hazard, probably more like Hazard on the left.
And then one last question before I give it to Dami here. With Dani Carvajal obviously being injured, they're the main starting right back. Who do you expect to start at right back then? Do you think Nacho Fernandez will move over to that side if Mendy plays left back? Or do you think they'll pick Odriozola?
So the predictions say that Odriozola will start. However, Zidane tries to start Nacho over Odriozola whenever he gets a chance because Odriozola's played only a handful of games this season, and Nacho's his tried and trusted man, right? He's like the Jorginho to Sarri. So Nacho will probably go there with someone a bit more reliable, but it does mean he's someone potentially to get at in a 1v1.
That is fair enough. And then with that said, Demi, obviously a couple of positions, I know you don't have that long, so let's focus on kind of the questionable, the debatable ones, I suppose. Obviously, Mendy will be in goal. Thiago Silva and Rudiger will start. Rudiger with the mask, right? As Thomas Tuchel has basically confirmed today. And then the big question is, does Aspi start? And if he does start, where does he start? Dami, that's you before you need to head off.
Okay. If Aspi does start, I don't see him start. I don't honestly. The only place he can start is on the right wing back position. You know what I mean? And then again, all these things they boil down to Tuchel. You know what I'm saying? For me personally, I wouldn't start him. Honestly, not because I feel like he's bad defensively or anything like that, but we saw what he did against Real Madrid last time. You know, I'm coming from, and that left hand side wasn't even that dynamic. It wasn't even that pacey. It wasn't even that fast going. You know what I'm saying? So are we really going to risk Azpilicueta because of his experience? I mean, to be fair, let me not go down that route. But Azpilicueta, really, how much? We need to look at the benefits and the downsides of him playing there. Yeah, you can see he's got that experience and he's got that ability to bring up that maturity on the right hand side. When it comes to 1v1 defending as well, he's very good. But that right wing back position tomorrow is not just going to be about defending, sitting back, soaking up pressure. We're going to need to be up and down, and effective up front and effective back way at the back as well. I don't see him playing as one of the centre backs as well. Christensen has that position on lock. Rudiger has his on lock, and Thiago Silva has his on lock as well. So that's why, for me personally, Aspi is starting from the bench as moral support. Not because I don't feel like he's good enough, but just because I don't feel like he can bring us what we need up front as well. Do you know what I'm saying? Reece James is going to bring you that crossing into the box as well. Going to bring that dynamic up front. He's going to be able to link up with the people effectively up front as well. And when it's time to come to defend, now we're going to be caught in transition because that will happen once or twice in the game at the bare minimum. He's going to be able to track back as well. Aspi is not going to be able to he's no longer end to end. He's too old for that. Do you know what I'm saying? So once again, I can see why either of them could start, but I don't think Azpilicueta is going to start in that game at all, bro. Reece James, for me, he's good enough. He's good enough for this game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think ability-wise, everyone, including Tuchel, will probably agree. I think the big question is just, does the experience possibly outweigh a slight lack of pace and a slight maybe lack of ability to some extent in his older age compared to maybe Reece James? Does the experience outweigh that? In your opinion, clearly not. I suppose on the other side, it's Chilwell midfield too will be Jorginho and N'Golo Kante. Again, Kovacic is out injured. And then you touched on the front three. I think you touched on that you don't want to go with Timo Werner, right? But is it for you a clear case of going with Kai Havertz, or is it for you a case of, what about Giroud? What about Tammy, as crazy as that would sound with how little Tammy's played? But obviously, then again, Giroud wasn't even in the squad against Fulham. So that doesn't exactly look like Giroud's going to, really in the picture. So I suppose it kind of is between Werner and Havertz. And for you, it's clearly Havertz there, is it? Because I do want to say that one thing. Havertz, to me, looks much more, I don't know, physically
imposing,
imitatable. Is that the word?
Imitatable. That's
not the word. I'm looking for a different word. Intimidatable. Sorry, that's the word. Intimidatable. Do you know what I mean? Well, I feel like Ramos and whatever the other centre back Militao do, they can, if he gets a few rough tackles, I feel like Havertz could be a bit more put off trying more than Timo Werner could.
I think, listen, when it comes to Timo Werner, I just think he's extremely aggressive. So, and Havertz's motion and movement is a lot more calmer and not lazy, but a lot more playing the game at his own speed. And there's pros and cons to both of them. Obviously, Timo Werner's going to stretch defense. He's going to be in your face. He's going to consistently have you worrying about his threat and behind. He's going to be maybe forcing you into more errors as well with his pressing. But he can be quite erratic with his first touch. He can be quite erratic with his link-up play at times. And that can more time lead you to either missed chances or a turnover in possession. Whereas Kai Havertz, because he's an attacking midfielder by trade, he's going to keep things ticking over a lot better. He's going to have better vision for balls in behind for Pulisic and Mason Mount running in the channels. He's just going to be a little bit of a better footballer. However, would Ramos prefer that, or would he prefer someone who's going to be running it up in his face? I don't know. It's a difficult one. There's lots of pros and cons to it. But I think when it comes to Timo Werner, I think him and Aspie, they would be brilliant substitutes. Remember, this game could go to extra time as well. 1-1 is not an unrealistic scoreline. Then you've got another half an hour to play. You've got 5 subs, and no better person to bring on than, first of all, if we're leading, Azpilicueta to shut up shop, and Timo Werner to bring on for the counter if Real Madrid are 1-0 down and need to start piling the pressure, or if we're in extra time and you want that extra burst of energy, you bring on someone who's going to then start causing havoc again. So there's a lot of pros and cons to it. That's for sure.
That's true. Damien, for you, it's that same front three: Pulisic, Mount, Havertz, yeah?
Yes, the most dynamic, is the most electrifying, is the one that I know can score some goals as well. Do you know? I mean, only thing with Havertz is, once again, sometimes Havertz also has his no-show days. Do you know what I'm saying? And we're going up against big boys, Sergio Ramos as well. Militao is also going to be playing. And as much as Chelsea fans love Varane, and I like him as well, I rate him as centre-back. Militao, if he has the ability to go and do what he wants, and you've got Sergio Ramos actually sitting there doing quite a bit of defending and actually commanding what's going on at the back, it would be quite complicated for him to get and do his thing. Like Matisse said, he'd like to play the game at his own pace, but I'm really going to get that chance. But then again, I could also tell you that I would like to see Havertz starting, because when Real Madrid are going to eventually, because they're going to have to come at us from the very beginning, do you know what I'm saying? That's what they're going to have to do. Once the things have gone on for quite a long time, 60, 70 minutes, you bring on Werner. You've got pace. You've got that ability to run in behind. You've got their midfielders tired. You've got their fullbacks tired as well. So it'll be an interesting one, but I'm definitely starting with Pulisic, Mount. I think those two are more or less certain. Those ones are set in stone for me. I don't think anyone can debate about that. The qualities that Mason Mount brings from an offensive and defensive standpoint, those half turns in between the middle of the lines, I'm coming from very effective at releasing space for the other attackers, and also the counter press when you've got Chelsea going up against those guys in midfield. Very good at getting the ball off, like likes of Casemiro and Modric and Kroos and all them, man. Do you know what I'm saying? So those two are definitely certified. But Havertz, I would probably give it to Kai Havertz. Do you know what I'm saying? Just because I feel like if things are still looking a bit stagnant, okay, in the 70th, 80th minute, I'm bringing up Werner for pace. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and get him and come in and do his thing, because once again, Sonic the Hedgehog can always run in it. So that's what it's going to be.
That is absolutely fair enough. I know you need to head off, so I appreciate you coming on a lot. Myself, Alex, and Matisse will continue this for a while longer before also Lewis should join us in a little bit as well, or whenever his stream is done, which might be soon, might not be. Let's see, I suppose. But yeah, Damien, appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the charity thing, and let's hope for a good result tomorrow. Just quickly, can I get a score prediction out of you?
Chelsea.
There you go. Clown.
Chelsea. I mean,
did you say 2-0 or 3-0?
2-0 Chelsea.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 3. I was like, what is this brother smoking?
We're saving all the crack and these Cuban cigars for tomorrow on the stream minute. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're doing. But big up people. Go ahead.
Exactly. There we are. Appreciate it a lot, bro. With that said, someone just asked in the comment section, is Varane out injured? It seems to be. Obviously, Zidane's press conference hasn't yet been held, I think, but he is out, right? As is obviously Carvajal, as is also Lucas Vazquez, who might be their other right-back option if Carvajal is out, but Vazquez is also out injured. And I don't think we know quite yet whether Valverde is fully out or not. I think the results of his PCR test is still, pending, right? But
Valverde's back.
Yeah, I think he's back.
But realistically, he's probably not back enough to start the game. Well, maybe he wouldn't start anyway, right? But does he have the physical? We don't know how badly he was hit by, the C word, but usually does take a bit out of you, especially as an athlete. If you can't train for 2 weeks or a week or two, you're not going to be ready to like just start games, is it?
I mean, they were very insistent on getting the results so quick. So that tells me that they want to play him. Otherwise, there would be no need to press on. Now, got a choke. He played right back against Liverpool. So again, I think he might play. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. For Real Madrid, they are, you know, they've been resting Hazard for this as well. They brought him back over the weekend. I think they might just push it with him and play him in this game, or maybe not. But they have been trying to get the results for a reason, not to just put him on the bench. It feels like as if they've been trying to start him, because I don't think they're very confident with that right hand side. Vasquez is out, the right back is out. The whole, you know, structure of that team down the right hand side is going to be, you know, full of players on the peripheral. So with him having that experience against Liverpool and playing very well, by the way, was borderline man of the match. I think he's definitely within a shout, because technically he's a lot better than their other option.
I mean, that's definitely true. That's definitely, I mean, he's more technically better than obviously what's his face, Nacho Fernandez, right? The one thing I would say is if they actually do start him, I think you need to try and pounce on that he's possibly not quite up there in fitness, and you need to just start punting those long balls down the left and need to make the guy sprint, because, you know, maybe his lung would just be at the absolute end of it after half an hour. If we make him run, you know, if we allow them to like sit and be calm and have possession, he'll be fine. But if you make the guy sprint up and down the pitch all game long, then he'll be dead at some point, I reckon. But again, unless he basically had no symptoms, just a positive test result, but probably, you know, not the case. By the way, guys, we have nearly 200 people watching. Big up yourself for that. But if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. We're getting ever closer to 10,000 subscribers. We're just over 400 away at this point. So, you know, the more of you that subscribe, you know, right now, you know, the quicker we can get there, let's get there before the end of the season. And of course, be sure to smash the like button. If you want to support the channel and want to use the super chat function, of course you can, but you don't have to. But make sure that, you know, we discuss your comment. If you fancy becoming a member, you know, there's the links in the description or a join button underneath as well. Alex, I quickly want to get to you because we touched on like the formation and the lineup that they're likely to go with. Is there anything else that obviously we maybe didn't exploit enough, or maybe we did exploit, but maybe most of the fans didn't quite notice it, that for you is a weakness for Real Madrid that Chelsea shouldn't, you know, might exploit tomorrow?
I think Chelsea did everything right, personally. And I'm going to talk a bit about Madrid, because there's a lot that's just been said about Ramos and Valverde and Hazard. And in my opinion, I think we're having the same conversations we kind of did before the first leg. And in my opinion, the conversations have been proven different or wrong, I'd say, because we've spoken about Madrid's, I think Matisse said, really pointed out well about Real Madrid's experience. They've got the best experience in the world in this competition. But the battle going into the first leg, the battle about this was whether that experience was enough to get through a team that's tactically at the moment superior and has got a squad that's more fit and I'd say more complete. And I think the answer was no, because Real Madrid this season have relied almost exclusively on their left-hand side. And Damien was speaking about the Azpilicueta thing, starting the right wing-back. And I said it on Lewis's stream that we're still debating about Azpilicueta starting the right wing-back because we didn't really see much of him, I guess, defensively or attacking-wise in the first leg. Like, there's nothing super noteworthy that we could point our heads to. But that was because he played a very, very calm game and he kept Madrid's second biggest attacking danger to Benzema, which is Vinicius, completely quiet. There was only one moment I remember in the first half where he almost got left in the dust, but besides that, it was fine. And with, as I was saying about Ramos, I think his reputation is proceeding at the moment. This is a guy who's committed 5 errors in the last 2 seasons, who's only played 15 games this season, has only won about 50% of his tackles. He's, I'd say, much more dangerous going forward than he is in defence. I wouldn't be too worried about him starting. And Freddy Valverde as well, he's also not really the best defensively. He's only won about less than 50% of his tackles. So I think Chelsea, they'll be going into this game with much the same plan, knowing that Madrid haven't really got the ammo to switch up. And they're going to play maybe they will play their wild card, which is Eden Hazard. But this is a guy who's missed 37 games this season for injury. That's a hell of a lot. He's only played 9 times. He only made 7 starts. So, personally, for me, from a Chelsea perspective, Tuchel will be going into this game saying, we know what we need to do. And then that will be doing what they did in the first leg, which is sort of stretching the defence, getting in behind. But most like most importantly, shutting Madrid down, forcing them wide. And I think from a Chelsea perspective, they'll be quite calm about this. And the onus is on Zidane and Madrid to make a big improvement in the second leg.
I mean, you make a lot of fair points, especially the Ramos one, especially with the stats, which obviously, I mean, I didn't know necessarily before. I think with Ramos, it's one of those, first of all, you might look at that way, but I guarantee you that our front three will be more, respectful of Sergio Ramos than it would be of the centre-back two last time, which just has an effect in itself, right? Plus, Valverde defensively, I fully agree. He's not as good as Valverde. But Madrid are not coming to Stamford Bridge tomorrow to park the bus. Madrid are coming to Stamford Bridge tomorrow to win, right? Because they have to, or get a high-scoring draw. So, and from that aspect, I think Valverde, if anywhere near fit, is a bigger threat, especially with his pace. I think Valverde is very similar to Ruben Loftus-Cheek in a lot of ways, just better, right? He's got the power, he's got the pace, he's big in terms of, but he's not too big, right? But he's got physical prowess, he's technically absolutely brilliant, got a pass in him, got a shot in him, got a goal in him, right? And when fit, has legs to run for days, right? So that kind of threat down the right-hand side, if it isn't Carvajal, I think can be a bigger threat to us than Nacho Fernandez can down that side, whether it's for Chilwell, whether it's for the left centre midfielder, whether it's for the left centre back. I think he can kind of maybe make their right-hand side a bit more of a threat than it usually is, if that makes sense. Do you hear what I'm saying?
But then that's a strong point. And like going forward, yeah, by far, much better than Nacho. And of course, Real Madrid aren't coming here to park the bus. But if Chelsea start Pulisic or Werner, which I think that's guaranteed, one of those two will start.
Yeah.
Both players who like to drift to the right and have got the pace to get in behind. If Valverde's getting up, then that space left behind him. And I think Zidane will say to Valverde, if he starts him, he's going to go, listen, I know you're better going forward. This is a guy who's scored 3 goals, got an assist this season, but be wary. He'll be a bit more wary. Like Kyle Walker was against PSG last week against Mbappe. Against the pace of Werner and Pulisic, I think Valverde will be a little more disciplined than he has been previously.
But if that so happens, right, why would they start Valverde? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Matisse has made a fair point. It seems like, they want to push for that, but why would they have started him against Liverpool? Because he started against Liverpool in the second leg as well, didn't he? At right back. So, and they went into that with a 3-1 lead. So, like, even less so in terms of needing to go forward. So, if he started him there, why would he, there must be something that he does better than Nacho Fernandez. Or did Nacho Fernandez have to play left back in that game? No, he didn't. Mendy played, right? So, Nacho Fernandez could, in theory, have played right back. So why do you think he made that decision then in the last game if it doesn't seem to be such a significant improvement?
It's a couple reasons. So Valverde is just a lot more well-rounded than Nacho. So even though I'm saying he'll be, if he starts against Chelsea, be a bit more disciplined, at least he can go forward, right? It's the argument with Reece James and Azpilicueta that Dami was making, that even if Reece James is not quite as strong as defensively, at least going forward, he's going to be able to do far more than Azpi. And Nacho would rather play Valverde there out than an out of position Nacho. And the second half of it is that, to give a bit of context on Valverde, that he's played all over the pitch for Madrid. He's not like their key right back. He's a bit like his name's escaped me, but the fellow at Atletico Madrid that we were worried about. Marcus Llorente, that's it. It's kind of the utility man that Zidane trusts. He trusts Valverde to do lots of different roles. He's quite disciplined in the same way that Asensio has been in recent weeks.
It's a tough one, really, because obviously Mason Mount has now fully made one of those front three spots his own. But I suppose when Tuchel initially joined and we switched away from a formation where you have an 8, which is obviously still Mount's probably ideal formation, you could argue. It's kind of one of those where Mount has just been so good that kind of, regardless of what formation you play, you kind of just have to put him in. Is that a little bit of the case for Valverde because Modric has found form again? Casemiro is who he is. Cruz has had a brilliant season. Is it just a case of Valverde is too good not to play, so we're just putting him in somewhere?
A little. I wouldn't say the words.
You muted Matisse.
Sorry?
It's
Matisse tried to speak with his muted.
It's similar with Essien. Remember when we used to play Essien at right back? Athletically, obviously athleticism-wise, he was very good as well. But we had our midfield stacked with Lampard, Ballack, Mikel or Makalele or whoever it was. So we moved Essien to right back at times as well. Similar situation to that, in my opinion. I just think Real Madrid, they know they need to be the the team on the front foot here. They know they need to be going forward, and I think they're just going to look for that technically superior player at that position. Right back these days, you've seen Trent at Liverpool. It's not all about defending, and you've seen Cancelo at Man City can tuck inside. He can play a variety of positions, and you can actually be quite offensive from that position. And I think they'll use that as an opportunity to try and build up play. If they play a midfielder at right back like that, create triangles, and Mendy will be the outlet on the left hand side, who's a little bit more athletic. So it's an interesting balance. But when you have a natural DM like Casemiro, who is just there for one purpose, similar to Mikel, which is to just be defensively solid, I think you can get away with playing someone like Valverde at right back and not lose too much. But in saying that, we as Chelsea should be looking at that right hand side as a weakness, regardless of who plays there, whether it's Nacho, whoever is over there. We should be looking at that as the weakness, because I think Chilwell, who's in good form, Pulisic, Werner, if he plays there, that left channel for us should be where we are a main threat, and that it tends to be where we create a lot of opportunities as well. Anyway, the right hand side is more about crossing, cutbacks, but the left hand side, a lot of the right footers will feel like they can cut in and get a shot off from there. Mason Mount against Trent for Liverpool, against Liverpool at Anfield, cutting from over there. Pulisic's goal kind of came from that left hand side with the clip with Rudiger with the pass. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be looking at from that left hand side of the right hand side of their defense.
I think that's a very good point, to be honest. And I suppose with that, we should probably get into what I asked Dami a minute ago, like in terms of the team that we think we should play, right, Matisse? I presume you agree that, Mendy will be in goal, Rudiger will play left centre back, Thiago Silva will play central centre back, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think for me, Christensen, I would favour. Well, I don't. It's difficult because you can see Aspie's experience needed, and there maybe, or Christensen sometimes in big games can get a bit nervous and unwell, but he has kind of seemed to have got over that a little bit this season. I'm not really too fussed too much. I mean, if we're going to build out from the back, I know Christensen's the better option. And also the height that Christensen will bring over Aspie as well. We know they're going to be a threat from set pieces. Ramos is back. It's another reason why I want Kai Havertz in the team as well, for the height, defending corners from near post. Did so at the weekend quite a lot. So we know from set pieces with no Zuma, we're not really a threat going forward. And defensively, we might be a little bit exposed. Alonso's not going to play. So we do need a bit of height. So yeah, I think I'll slightly edge towards playing Christensen, who hasn't really put a foot wrong, Silva, Rudiger, and obviously Mendy in goal,
And with that said then, does Aspie still start for you at right wing back, or is it Reece James there? Because I think it's a difficult one, because I don't personally kind of paint the experience that Real Madrid have over us quite as big of a thing as some other, not necessarily saying you, but some other people I've seen do that. But then those very same people would not start Aspie. I'm like, that to me doesn't really make sense. You can't say, why Madrid are such a big player is because of their experience, but then not want to start Aspie, because, especially with Kovacic out injured, who alongside Thiago Silva is the only other guy that's really played at this level, and Kovacic being the only guy that's actually won it, albeit not being a regular starter at the time, right? I'm not sure if he started any of the finals, in all honesty, but Aspie's the only other guy in our team that has played a Champions League semi-final. I know we didn't go through, but if you're going to paint the experience as such an important thing, I'm surprised at how many people wouldn't start Azpilicueta, if that makes sense. But what about you? Would you start him at right wing back, or would you go for Reece James? I presume it's not going to be snowed for you.
The experience thing is big, but I think Rudiger stepped up with his shithousery against Atletico. Thiago Silva's in the team. Mason Mount shown that he can be quite a leader. Kante and Jorginho are quite experienced as well. I think there's enough experience to compensate, and I would definitely go Reece James, because, like I said, if we was taking a 2-1 lead here, then I would go Azpilicueta. But because it's such finely balanced in this game in terms of the scoreline, I think that threat going forward is important, that we maintain some sort of threat and we don't set up so defensively. I saw in that first leg, Azpilicueta was trying to make these inverted Theo Walcott type runs, running sideways. And
funny to compare Azpilicueta to Theo Walcott.
Well, that's what he was trying to do from right wing back. He was trying to make these runs where you run along the defensive line so you stay on side, and then you make that arc. And he shouted at Jorginho a few times because he didn't spot it. I applaud his effort and whatnot, but it just doesn't work. It's not the guy that you want running in behind on goal anyway. And I don't think he brings enough going forward in that position. from a crossing perspective, from a dynamism perspective, and you need to remember Mendy's going to be playing more than likely as well, not Marcelo, which means there's going to be more speed on the pitch. So for me, I'm going Reece James, and I think, like I said earlier, I think Azpilicueta coming on off the bench, if we're leading or if things get nervy, that's the perfect person to bring on. You got 5 subs, so but for me, Reece James, just as an all-round player, is just superior, and it kind of links again to the right back situation for Real Madrid, just picking that technically superior player.
I slightly disagree. I agree with James is definitely better going forward as per the quote, especially on the wing, offering a lot more. But in first instance, I think even though Azpilicueta wasn't spotted like making those runs, it still caused trouble for Real Madrid because it was taking their players out of position, which helped Chelsea find players on the right. And also defensively.
Can I just quickly jump in on that? Because those runs to me, because what they did is drag the defender, meaning drop their offensive line. Basically, for me, that wasn't... you said he shouted at Jorginho, which I didn't notice. But for me, the idea behind that run seemed most likely because other than if it's Arsenal away where he scored his first goal for Chelsea, you don't really want Aspie clean through on goal anyway. It's not the guy you want to be there. But because Aspie made that run, the left back was dragged so far that a Pulisic or a Werner could have started a run and could have had such a pace advantage while staying onside for so long because Aspie dragged the other defender. That for me, it looked like Jorginho was waiting for Pulisic or Werner to start a run after Aspie had dragged the left back further back. So Pulisic and or Werner had that space to pick up so much pace that none of the other defenders would catch them. And Jorginho was kind of waiting for that run to chip it over to them rather than to play to Aspie, because you don't really want Aspie in that position in terms of going one-on-one with the keeper. Maybe I'm wrong here, but that's how I kind of those runs were meant to kind of what they were meant to lead to.
Yeah, it's leaning into one half of it because I think it's like two-pronged. It's either that it allows Werner or Pulisic to make that run, or if the Real Madrid defence say, we'll leave Azpilicueta go 1v1, then Chelsea are 1v1 and we can get in behind. But I think what I was going to say about Azpilicueta, I think the one thing with Reece James is completely no fault of his own. It's just because of his age. He's not quite there as defensively as strong as Azpilicueta. I mean, just looking at the ground duels, tackles and aerials, Reece James wins the ball about 50% of the time. Azpilicueta is above 60%. So you want someone a bit more reliable. And with the Ferland Mendy thing, I think Matisse made a good point about the pace, which is that's why I sort of lean to Reece James. But on the other hand, Mendy is a really good dribbler for Real Madrid. Makes nearly 2 dribbles a game, and he completes 3/4 of them. So if Real Madrid's left-hand side wasn't dangerous enough already, then it is now. So I'd kind of want your best defenders on that side rather than the most all-rounded players. And then maybe I'd reverse it and say, okay, we could bring Reece James on going into the game. I guess there's 2 sides to it. I don't think I'm right completely here. If it depends on your game plan. But certainly if you're trying to prevent an early goal, then you'd start Azpilicueta and bring on Reece James to bring a bit of a better drive later on in the game.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And this comment here by, not going to try to pronounce the name, I'm going to butcher it anyway, saying Reece James won't cut it, he would just concede fouls. And if I had one criticism of Reece James, it's that he gives away way too many unnecessary and silly fouls. First of all, Matisse, do you agree with that? And second of all, as we touched on, at the beginning, or Dami touched on it, I think, in terms of the set piece threat, right? Is giving away silly fouls not just, I don't know, almost worse than being a tad slower? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. I've got to go soon because I've got another show in 5 minutes. But I think just as my final point, I think there's pros and cons to both players. But when I'm looking at, again, it's Aspie is obviously the more assured guy defensively, and Reece James is a better guy going forward. Chilwell is very good defensively as well. We do have already 3 at the back. We do have Jorginho and Kante, who are not defensive-minded, but they're not going to make an impact going forward. We know Kante's decision-making going forward is questionable. When he makes those bursting runs and he tries to make that final pass, it doesn't come off a lot of the time. I'm very much trying to wear off having too many defensive-minded players on the pitch in a game where we need a goal, because we need to score first. I can't make that any clearer. If we do not score first, I put my hat on it. We go out the time, honestly, because you need to remember, if Real Madrid get 2, this is basically game over. So we need to score first. And to do that, we need a threat. And we need to take advantage of what, was just said from EuroExpert earlier, Mendy defensively not being the most capable. And if there's one person that's going to take advantage of that, it's going to be Reece James in terms of his attacking, ability with the ball crossing. And because I'm playing Havertz up front as well, personally in my team, I think we need to take advantage of any sort of heading ability that he can bring into the game as well, with his height. And we have to score. So I'm gonna probably take Aspie out and have him as the guy that comes on. In saying that, as this comment says, I don't expect him to not start because he didn't play last game. So
that's what I was going to ask you, because that's your team. In terms of predicted 11, you think Aspie will start?
Yeah, he will probably start. Yeah.
I think me and Matisse are basically two sides of Matisse is going with the idea of if we score, Chelsea need to score to make sure this game is dead. So it's a bit more of a more attacking, creative lineup. I like my thinking would be a bit more shutting out and making sure Real Madrid don't score. But it depends what Tuchel wants. It depends what he wants from the team, because to criticise my own thing, defense. If Chelsea could start all their defenders, guess what? Like Matisse saying, Chelsea could start all their defensively minded players, and then they could concede within 25 minutes, and all of a sudden you're going to need to make quite a few changes, and you're in big trouble. So I do get the attacking side of it too.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, we have the super chat here by Rashon. I appreciate it, saying Aspie is slow as F and don't play him. Fair enough, I suppose. We have this comment here by Ali Reza just quickly before, I kind of outro Matisse before we keep going for a little while longer here. Ali Reza said that Reece, in Lampard's words, went toe-to-toe with the Bayern wingers. He's good. Real wingers are no better than Bayern's. I'm not sure if you're referring to the second leg, but in the first leg, if you really want to talk about Bayern Munich, Reece James got ripped to absolute pieces by Real Madrid. So I'm not sure referring to Real Madrid is the strong point for why we should start Reece James. Of course, Reece James has improved drastically in that, a year and a month or 2 months since that first leg at Stamford Bridge against Bayern Munich, that 3-0 defeat, improves drastically. But I'm not sure whether we should use what he did against Bayern as any sort of reasoning why he should start against Real Madrid. And just lastly, Matisse, because I know you need to head off. First of all, give me a score prediction. And then secondly, depending on what the score prediction is, which order do you think those goals will be scored in?
I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea, because I think they will score with the extra attacking players that they'll play. If Hazard definitely plays as well, Benzema, we saw his threat, and I think we'll just edge it. I think the first goal will be scored by us. We don't do comebacks. We don't concede first that often. And then the equaliser, and then 2-1, maybe in the final 20 minutes. That's what I think will happen, yeah.
It seems if it's not like, say, how if we go 2-0 up and then concede one, it's kind of like, holding on for dear life. I mean, we might still hold on for dear life if we score a 2-1, but the scenes of 1-1, it's extra time, blah, blah, shit. And then we scored a 2-1, it'd be a madness. Yeah. I'm so gassed for it. At the same time, I'm shitting it. Like it's what we love and hate football at the same time. It's like these big games, like that's why you're a football fan, really. These huge games, right, that you really care for. Doesn't matter what level you are at, like whether it's us in the Champions League Semi Final, whether you support a smaller club and you just want to beat your rival, which is your biggest game, right? But you support for these big games, but at the same time, you just get so nervous for big games. That's, by the way, why football fans drink a lot. Most of them, right? Because we can't handle the nerves otherwise. It's a madness, right? It's a Champions League semi-finals now. It's crazy. And just think about what's going to happen in a final on 29th of May. Who knows how many of us, if any of us, will be able to go out as well. But anyways, right. Matisse, I really do appreciate you coming on. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, check out Matisse's channel down in the description below. And we'll continue on with Lewis and Alex for a little bit longer. Again, Matisse, appreciate it a lot. Take care. And, I'll see you soon, bro.
In a bit, my bro.
Brilliant. Lewis, sorry I haven't introduced you yet. Thank you for coming on.
No worries, man. Sorry I came so late.
No problem at all. As you can see, Matisse was here until now. First of all, how you been? And secondly, how you're feeling ahead of tomorrow before we finish off our discussion about the lineups?
Just get over and done with at this point. If we go out, it's annoying. I'd probably be even more heartbroken when it happens. But yeah, nerves are really starting to kick in. I was just deep in a Champions League semi-final second leg for the first time in years. this close to a final. And if it's a final, we're 90 minutes off winning the whole thing. It's crazy even thinking about it. But we got to do our job, innit? A 0-0 draw takes us through. I don't know what sort of game to expect or what sort of approach to expect from Zidane, but it's more about what we do, because it is still in our hands and we are still capable of winning in the sense of 90 minutes. It's just there's a lot of nerves going around my head now. It's been easy listening to other people's opinions and everything, but now thinking about it from myself, it's just like I don't see where we could lose. But I know there's still the chance that we can lose. It's just I'm not sure it'll be set pieces. I can back us defensively. If we lose, it's just because we don't take our chances, I guess. Same way it always is.
It's one of those, isn't it? But at the same time, not taking our chances means we have to concede in some way, shape, or form. Because if we don't concede, it doesn't matter whether we miss chances, right? Obviously, I popped in quickly on your stream and you said you would start Aspie at right wing back. Obviously, I think all of us expect that to happen, but in terms of our lineups, you would also do it yourself, right?
Yeah. Aspie would start for me. It makes us more defensively solid, and that's what I think matters more going into this game. Yeah, the second goal would absolutely kill things off, but I think we've been at our best defensively the last 3 months. That's been our main strength. So I'd rather we stick to what we know for now. And what we know is to be defensive.
It's interesting because do we know how to be defensive? Because in any game, have Chelsea been defensive as such this season? I mean, I suppose the only one we were, you could argue...
We've tried to attack. Like, I'm not to say...
but let me just say this. The one game we were almost trying to be defensive was Porto, and we lost that game. Do you know what I'm trying to say? All the other games, we didn't try to be defensive as such.
I know, but like we say, we lost it, like 93rd minute overhead kick, wonder goal.
Sure, but tomorrow that knocks us out.
I think we're defensive, though. I think we're defensive implies that we're sitting back and letting them have the ball. I think Chelsea dominating possession inherently is quite defensive. In the same way Pep says it, the Real Madrid or whoever, they can't score if Chelsea have the ball. So I think Chelsea dominating possession rather than trying to go vertical all the time is in essence not necessarily defensive, but they're not like a Liverpool going balls to the wall, verticality, trying to score all the time.
But you could argue we can do that better with Reece James than with Aspie.
Yeah, I think
the keeping possession part in terms of being defensive that way.
Yeah. With Aspie, I was just gonna finish it off as well with the kind of rest Chelsea lineup. I think if this was like if this is a team who are going to be a bit more defensively sound, I'd say Reece James. But I don't think Chelsea need a Reece James to score against Madrid. I think Chelsea on paper with Aspie at right back. I don't think Real Madrid are defensively secure at the back. So I think Chelsea can get away with starting Aspie and still be quite attacking and create a lot of chances.
It's really interesting because for me, if I think of my team, it all depends on how Tuchel approaches the game. Because there is different approaches, and different approaches suit Aspie better, and different approaches suit Reece James better. I think that's what it all comes down to. And if we do it like obviously Alex just said, you're an expert in terms of if we kind of keep possession and just every now and again try to get a goal, but also every now and again just like a lovely mix of attacking and defending rather than being rather more focused on defending, then that would suit Aspie. And if we're going direct and we play Timo Werner and Pulisic up top, almost like a front two, and then we have Mount as kind of a 10 behind them, then playing Aspie probably makes more sense. But if we play possession type and we try to keep the ball and we try to carry it up the pitch, right? And we have Kai Havertz as a false nine with two wide number 10s of Mason Mount and Pulisic, right? Then I think a good offensive right wing back is more important. But if we just go direct and just go, not long is maybe the wrong word, but just go with those pacey runs of the two forwards, I think then Aspie's absolutely fine and he does give us an edge more defensively. And I think the whole Aspie being too slow and Aspie being caught out, that's only relevant if he pushes too high. If he doesn't push too high, he's absolutely fine. And I think a reason why and to be honest, I think Alex made a fair point. I think some Chelsea fans were way too quick to jump the gun on criticising Azpilicueta after the first leg. I don't think it was anywhere near as bad as people thought they were. I thought he was because I think people were just so scared of Real Madrid doing anything that any time anyone ran past Aspie, they were like, he's doing awful. When he was playing a right wing back, people were almost judging him as if he was playing right back or right centre back. where no one's allowed to run past you. As a right wing back, it's normal that people run past you because part of the press is the right wing backs being aggressive to their fullbacks. So obviously there's going to be someone behind the right wing back. That's only obvious, right? But if we're going to go super defensive, and it's almost like rather than playing a back three, an actual back five almost consistently, even at times in possession, or at least keeping a back four in possession and leaving Aspie back and only letting Chilwell attack, then Aspie makes a lot of sense, especially if they play their front three, because Vinicius with the system they played was way more central, so didn't really have so much directness with Aspie, right? Because it was kind of a front two of Benzema and Vinicius. While if he plays as a proper winger, you need a one-on-one defender. And who do I rather have one-on-one? I won't lie, Aspie, because the only problem with Aspie is when he can get outpaced. But if Vinicius stays up top and doesn't just come from deep all the time, I think he's fine. If that makes sense. Like the only problem is if Vinicius has space to attack. And that's, again, what it comes into. Do we play a high line? I go with Reece. Do we sit? I go with Aspie. That's why I'm saying it all depends on what Tuchel does. If Tuchel wants to play a deep line and plays Reece, I'm like, well, what's the point? But if he plays a high line and plays Aspie, I'm like, well, what are you doing? Because I don't then see the logic, if that makes sense. So I think it all depends on that. I would personally kind of tend to agree with what Matisse said. Go and score. Because I don't know. I think Madrid are not super used to people just not giving an F about who they are and just go like, well, who do you think we're better than you? We're just going to go beat you now. And they're not used to people doing that. They're used to people sitting back. Obviously, in La Liga, they don't really know how sitting back works. I've touched on this last week, but they're used to people defending. They're used to them, having to do the breaking down and blah, blah. That's what happened in their game against Osasuna on the weekend, even though, the referee and the goalkeeper had a brilliant day for, to stop Hazard from getting assists and goals and everything. That lovely Hazard, back heel flick into the run of, can't remember who it was, but some midfielder anyway. And then in the end, they got at least one scrapey goal that Casemiro somehow fell onto Casemiro's foot, and while running, kind of just walked it into the goal by accident. It's what they're used to, but what they're not used to is just someone popping at them. And I'm like, come on, what are you going to do about that then? Because we touched on how brilliant their midfield three are. Toni Kroos and Luka Modric are brilliant midfielders. They're not brilliant defensive midfielders. So make them work defensively, and out of nowhere, you're like, now they're not looking that good. And the same goes for Mendy. The same goes for whoever plays at right back. Okay, maybe Nacho Fernandez not so much, but he's still not then the most mobile, still not like they're the best in the first 5 yards in terms of acceleration. So I feel like our best way of beating Real Madrid is still going at them, because look at how much we battered them in the first half last week. I know it's dangerous that we can concede a goal, but that's why we play a back three. I trust our back three to, if we go at them, still hold it. I trust them. Maybe it can go wrong, and at the end of the day, that's why I'm not being paid millions to make those decisions like Thomas Tuchel is. But that would be my logic how to approach it, Lewis. I know you don't fully agree with that. So let me know why you disagree with that, and then kind of how you do it differently. Would you honestly just do a Munich and just park it, or how would you try to approach it?
I wouldn't even necessarily park the bus. It's just I feel the way that we play, it makes us more defensively solid in general. So that's the reason why I'm confident. It's not necessarily the case of sit everybody behind the ball and just deal with the pressure for 90 minutes. Because even doing that, I think we'll concede regardless. I think it's just the way that we retain possession and the way that we play to keep possession, as well as having a defensive mindset regardless. I feel like it's this combination that would work to our benefit, if you get what I mean. I'm not saying park the bus. Like, even when I'm saying play more possession based, I still think we're going to play more defensive than we usually do, because we would have Aspie at wing back, in my opinion. But it's not to park the bus. I think we could still make attacking runs and play more off the left-hand side using Ben Chilwell. That's the way I feel like we would be able to attack. But there's still a means to attack regardless. It's not get the ball, hold possession, waste time, park the bus. No, try and attack. Obviously, try and attack and try and get a goal where you can. It's just I want us to be more defensively minded first, like defense first, and then focus on the attack. If you get what I mean in terms of the mindset.
I hear that. I hear it. Like, that's kind of what I do for the first 10, 15 minutes to make sure we don't concede an early goal. After that, I go like F it and just pop at them and see what happens. Because I don't know. I feel like in Chelsea's fans' heads, it's like we're great at just soaking up pressure, just dealing with it, never making mistakes. That used to be Chelsea. That's not what we are anymore. That's not what we were on the Sarri. That's not what we were on the Frank. That's not what we are now. I know we have this unbelievable defensive record, but that's not because we sit and no one can do anything. That's because we have one of the best presses I've ever seen any team have in terms of, especially from midfield upwards. The way our centre-backs attack to win the ball back, how our midfielders attack to win the ball back, whether it's like Kante in the first leg when he's super high, or whether it's like more of a proper pivot and like we just sweep and pick up everything that there is. And I want to make this case for Timo Werner as well. If you want the maximum best press from the front, you go for Timo over Kai. I will say this. I'm not saying I would pick Timo over Kai, but if that's what you want, you pick Timo over Kai.
And just to back that up quickly, like the idea that Chelsea were doing better because of their pressing rather than sitting deep is completely correct, because as well, if Chelsea had been sitting deep, they would have been under siege by Real Madrid, but Madrid only had one shot on target in the entirety of the last game, and that's because Chelsea was attacking their midfield and stopping them progress through the centre. So you bang on there.
Yeah, that's kind of my point, and that's kind of the type. That's what I want to see. I don't even want to see them having shots on target. I don't want to see a Fulham game where Mendy has to make 3 blinding saves. Don't even let it get that far. I mean, if Benzema wants to shoot from 35 yards again and hit the post, fine.
Let him, yeah.
Let him do that. Likelihood of him scoring those is small. And if he does, fair dues. Like, what can you do? I mean, to be honest, I kind of don't want to jinx it. It's literally Chelsea heritage to concede screamers. Like, the amount of screamers we've conceded over the years, even bloody Chelsea women conceded a screamer against Bayern Munich the other night. It's a madness. Like, it doesn't matter who you are at Chelsea, you're conceding a screamer. So let's not do that tomorrow. Unless we score 2, then I don't care, right? But Lewis, just quickly, obviously, you touched on Aspie. You would sign right wing back. That makes, obviously, the centre-back 3 obvious. Chilwell left. Wing back is obvious. Midfield 2 is very obvious, even though I want to quickly touch on Kante's role tomorrow a little bit just before we finish it off. But what is your front 3? Is it as obvious as Pulisic, Mount, Werner? Is it as obvious as Pulisic, Mount, Havertz? Or do you drop a Ziyech in there? Callum? I know you like Callum, but probably even you wouldn't go with Callum tomorrow. But it's probably between Werner, Havertz, and Ziyech. It's probably between those 3, especially with Tuchel's comments, actually not today in the press conference, but post-Fulham, when he said, well, maybe we won't play a striker at all. And I know Kai can do that. But if you won't play a striker at all, just to kind of like leave Ramos hanging in the air, even though Alex says don't worry about Ramos too much.
It still hints at Werner if you're saying not a striker too, technically.
You sure? Because I feel like that hints at Mount, Pulisic, Ziyech. If he goes like no striker, that's neither Kai nor Timo then for me. I don't think he will do that. I'm saying that's kind of what he's hinted at.
Mason Mount is a potential false 9 in this situation. I'd want to go for Werner, Pulisic, and Mount. And it's only because I think Kai Havertz would be a good option for us off the bench. Same way Christian Pulisic would be a good option for us off the bench too. But after the way he played in the first leg, I don't feel it would be right to bench him regardless. Mount doesn't get dropped. Timo Werner, to me, yes, like his finishing's atrocious. But I'm also thinking, like, if the first leg isn't enough motivation, then God knows what's going to be any more motivation at this point in it. Like,
but I will say this: I don't think Werner's problem has ever been a lack of motivation. It's just a lack of execution.
I think it's definitely his mentality, though.
That's definitely the thing, because I think with the first miss, you could every time it's like one bad miss, you can just see his face drop. And then you can see afterwards there's another miss, and then there's another miss, like exactly the Real Madrid game, for an example. And that still doesn't take away from what he does outside the finishing, which is why he's such a frustrating player, because he does so many other aspects of the game well. It's just the finishing, man. Like it's so frustrating. But Real Madrid semi-final second leg, like this is literally Fernando Torres vibes. You score today, everything's forgiven. No one's going to care about the misses against Fulham, against Leeds, against whatever team you want to label. So I think Werner starts on a motivation factor for me. Which I know it's risky. It's so risky. But at the very least as well, and people talking about the press too, that's a big example. Timo Werner is going to be our second best presser off the ball in the final third, other than Mason Mount. So I feel like that's going to be key for us as well. That's why you would start for me. Havertz is more technically sound, but I don't think we're going to be attacking as much to the point where we would need a Kai Havertz. I feel like he'd be a better option for us off the bench. Ziyech, too much of a question mark for me, so I personally wouldn't start him. So I'd probably go for Werner, Mount, and Pulisic. But Alex, I feel like you kind of disagree with me on the Ziyech points. I want to hear.
Yeah, It was just 2 weeks ago, Lewis. I absolutely hand on heart agreed with Ziyech, but I think he's been brilliant recently. Ever since that horror show at West Brom, he's really upped his game. Against Fulham at the weekend, he was sharpest player on the pitch, in my opinion. I think it was Fulham, yeah, but pretty sure it was. So I'm kind of leaning. Is lineup similar to yours? I think you go with Werner, Mount, Ziyech. I think you don't necessarily have a false nine in there. I think you just have Ziyech play. I think you have Ziyech and Werner playing up top, and Mount joining them when Chelsea have the ball. And when Chelsea out the ball, you have Mount joining in midfield, and then Ziyech can drop back if he needs to. But I think Ziyech's earned a start. And but the thing is, if Pulisic starts over him, completely fine. I think that's deserved as well. Same with Havertz. But yeah, I think you play Ziyech at the moment while he's playing so good, and but definitely Werner to.
Here's the thing: I didn't think Ziyech was bad against Fulham, but I thought he was just a lot more deeper than we'd want him to be. Is that you'd want him to do something similar to the Fulham game? Is that what you're
against Fulham? We played a different formation. Like he was told to be. Like we played a 3-5-2 or 3-1-4-2, if you want to call it that. We didn't play a 3-4-2-1 like we usually do, and it was kind of him and Mount.
Play Ziyech if we're going to play.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's why he was deeper.
I'm saying I agree. I don't think maybe start deeper, but I just think I think he's up to his performances, and just watching him at the weekend against Fulham, I just thought he was really on it to the point. I haven't got any stats right from me back up. I don't know if he actually had a terrible game by the stats, but I remember watching it and thinking, this is a guy who looks like he should be starting on Tuesday against Real Madrid. Feel free if anyone in the comments you guys to blow that apart, but that was just me.
No. I don't think you're wrong either. Like, to be honest, me being honest with myself, like when I was looking at the final third for a Fulham game, I was focusing more on Mason Mount and Kai Havertz because they were ridiculous in that game. So I feel like I might have missed a bit on Hakim Ziyech. That's why I don't want to say too much about it. I don't want to sit here and slander him either when he probably did have a great performance against Fulham. I'm just still not too sure about him. But then same way, if he plays against Real Madrid, that's the question answered, isn't it?
Say that front three again. Did you say you wanted to start Ziyech?
No. I didn't say I wanted to start.
Okay. I thought I misunderstood. Yeah, okay, fair. Because for me, I think, I mean, Alex doesn't 100% agree seemingly, but I think Pulisic and Mount are set on for most of the Chelsea fans, and even more so for Tuchel. Like, you don't do what Pulisic did in the first leg and not start the second. Like, that would be totally illogical to me. Like, Fulham is kind of irrelevant in that kind of grand scheme of things. And I said this before, and people say, "Oh, you're not funny." I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny. This is facts. Americans live for big moments. That's why their whole sports structure is playoffs. So Pulisic will turn up tomorrow. I guarantee it. Absolutely guarantee it, right? And Mason Mount. I mean, Mason Mount always turns up, so that's relevant. I think to me, it's kind of like just between Kai and Timo Werner up top, and I thought about this for a long time, and I'm still haven't come to a complete conclusion, if that makes sense. Because like I touched on earlier before you were here, I think, Lewis, for me, it's like what I fear about with Kai Havertz is that it's too easy to intimidate him and too easy to kind of take that little edge of his game by just clattering into him a few too many times, whether it's Ramos, whether it's Militao, whether it's Casemiro. And I think you can just shut Havertz down. And I think an example of that is, I can't remember, did he start the second leg against Porto? I think he did. He started both legs against Porto, and he was so quiet, like literally invisible in both legs against them. And what did their defenders do? They just clattered into it on every occasion they had. And I feel like if Madrid do that tomorrow, Kai's going to have a similarly invisible game. As much as I rate him and as much as I trust him more in front of goal, I don't think it's just about in front of goal, because against Porto, other than when Mount did things by himself, we barely got in front of goal. Or when obviously that defensive mistake and Chilwell was through. We didn't get in front of goal. So it's kind of pointless if he's better in front of goal. If with him being taken out of the game because he's kind of a bit too timid for maybe this type of occasion at this point in his career, that it's pointless that he's better in front of goal if we don't get to the goal because he plays. And that this isn't saying Havertz is bad or whatever. I completely agree. I trust him so much more up top, right? But I feel like you need the workhorses. You need the mentality monsters. And I agree with what Lewis said, that when Werner drops his head, when Werner misses a chance, it's a problem for him scoring. But it doesn't change anything in his work rate. If anything, he probably usually works hard after he's missed a sitter. And I think just get Pulisic and Mount to score and just let Werner do the running. I know it sounds weird, but just let him scare them. Let him make those runs. Let him press them to death. And if we need it or not need it, if we want to bring a bit of silky smooth on, you can still bring Kai on. I know what you said with bring Werner off the bench and bring the pace, but Werner is the only guy that I trust to make those runs for 120 minutes straight. He's Germans. Germans don't get tired. 120 minutes straight will just keep running. Hamstring won't feel a thing. He's not N'Golo Kante. He's not, some other players or Pulisic. Don't let Pulisic run the entire thing or 120 minutes. Let Werner do that, right? He can sustain that. And I feel like, I don't know. I mean, if you ask me a predicted 11, I'm almost guaranteeing that Werner starts. I'm not 1,000% sure whether. Well, no, I am actually. I think it will be instead of Kai. As much as Tuchel said, he made it a headache for the selection for Madrid, and Kai was after Fulham. I hope I get to start. I'm like, it's all well and good, but I just don't think he will. But I think I would agree, and I know people might be surprised at this because they know how much I hate. Oh, hate is the wrong word, but how much I've criticized Timo Werner, right? But I feel like for the big games, until I see Kai Havertz step up to a physical and an occasion, because he hasn't had an occasion for Bayer Leverkusen, so we can't really judge that. And for us, on the occasion games, he hasn't quite been able to step that up. And I'm not here to try and trial things in a Champions League semi-final second leg.
I will say as well, I don't think you start both Havertz and Mount, because what Havertz is good at is dropping into the midfield and providing another passing option, and that's what Mount will do anyway. So I think if you start both of them, then there's going to be one person left up front, and then you feel a little bit perhaps even toothless to say. Whereas if you have two people who are going to be a bit further forward, it might work out a bit better.
I mean, obviously, Fulham is a very different team. I know that. But against Fulham, it was more Mount as a 10, Werner and Havertz were both kind of like front two strikers. Like, Havertz can certainly do that. Would he do it against Madrid? I don't know. Again, would he try to get away from the centre-backs and kind of start being in the way a little bit? That's kind of where I'm coming from with that. Like, Timo Werner usually only scores when he gets hit in the face first or after. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when he scored against Newcastle, he got hit in the face. When he scored against West Ham, he had a bloody lip after as well. No one knows how. So it's kind of like, the rougher it gets, the more likely Timo Werner is usually to score. After all of what I just said, Lewis, do you still stick with Havertz, or do you think I've made some fair points that might have swayed your opinion?
Do I still stick with Havertz?
Yeah.
Oh no, I said I wanted Pulisic, Mount, and Werner, didn't I?
Oh, did you? Well, then I went on a whole rant for nothing. No, not a rant.
Sorry, man.
Well, then
hey,
someone clip this and send it to Damian Matisse anyway.
Man.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Someone clip this and send it to Damian Matisse, so then they know why I would probably stick with Werner. But
yeah, no, like Havertz ain't the right choice for me. Like, I know what he brings to the team, but not right now. And also, we haven't really started him in enough big games for me to throw him into a Champions League semi-final. Mount's justified his spot. Pulisic has justified his spot, and he ain't really that much of a presser. So for me, I think we need to really press that back line, and we need someone like Timo Werner, especially when it comes to the later stage of the game, but that's when I expect to see Havertz on the field anyway. Because at least then he will have a bit more of a presence on the field, be able to apply a bit more strength as well, be a bit more of a focal point that we can use when we're trying to get rid of the ball. If we're in a position where we're trying to defend the lead. Because if it's the last 15 minutes and we're dominating in terms of the aggregate, we will be defending the lead. So that's when I'd want to see someone like a Kai Havertz come onto the field, or maybe a Hakim Ziyech as well. Because those would be the best options for us coming off.
I agree. I think you make some good points, and I just completely agree. To be honest, like I can't say much else to it. To be totally honest with you, the last thing I want to touch on, because I know you need to head off in a minute, and we're gonna shut the stream off in a second anyway. I quickly want to discuss, how do we think the midfield two should play? Should Kante have a similar role to the last game, where he's like almost very attacking and super aggressive, getting after these guys, and then also taking that ball and running, rather than, trying to feed it to Mount and Pulisic early for them to do the runner with the ball? Should we let him do the runner with the ball to get into those final third situations where we can then get frustrated with him not playing the final pass? Because Kante was absolutely unbelievable against Real Madrid until he got to the final third and the last pass, because those were shocking, quite frankly.
Finally, someone agrees. Fucking hell. The amount of people that said masterclass, I was like, it's a great performance, but it wasn't a masterclass.
It's like
It was a
Conte reminds me
masterclass in
of
the first 80 meters of the pitch.
Conte reminds me of what Arsenal fans like to think of Jovino, where he's like the best player in the world until he reaches the penalty box. Then he gets an electric charge up his testicles, and then it just all goes wrong. That's what it feels like, Conte. But he did complete 9 dribbles that game, so yeah. I mean, to answer your question,
he completed them, but he made pointless if he then.
That's what I mean. Ball progression,
that's what I say about Kovacic all the time.
Play amazing. Final bar shocking. But that's your N'Golo Kante performance.
Thing is, I would rather he does what he did before, because the alternative for me is him making passes in midfield like Jorginho, and he's more likely to misplace them, like in the first half when I think I pointed down your stream, Lewis, where I was laughing my head off as a neutral because he got the ball just near the penalty box and he passed it straight to Vinicius, like a completely beautiful pass to him. And Jorginho cleared it and looked at him like, team are you on, mate? What team are you on? And then he ran 80 meters up the pitch.
But this is why I don't think Kante's role changes, because with him, you just get what you're given. You got an amazing player in the midfield third, but as soon as he gets to the final third, it is what it is.
Just have someone 5 yards away from him.
Literally, someone present yourself as a simple option in the final third. Yeah. At least you can fucking pass to him, I guess.
Because that's what I mean. Because that's what I mean.
But even when we do that, I'm being real. He misses the easiest pass just for another simpler option that kills the attack. It's actually so jarring in the final third. Like, I can't even lie to you, man. But at the very least, he breaks up play a lot. But let me not start, because it's going to turn into a slander session. I don't want to slander N'Golo. I like the guy. Even though it sounds I really like Kante.
What Firestarter said here, his dribbles were brilliant. Just what came at the end of the dribble wasn't. And so, Alex probably does. I'm not sure if Lewis does. But if people remember this one classical goal that Lionel Messi scored, where he literally passed the ball to Busquets, and Busquets just stopped the ball and just took a step away so Messi could run onto it again and just take it with him. That's almost what I want Kante to do tomorrow. Run with the ball until you're about 20, 25 yards from goal, then stop and wait for Mount to take it off you, or Pulisic to take it off you. Just stop, don't even pass, just stand there, let them take the ball off you, then we get a goal. Because his dribbling is unbelievable. It really is. But just this passing isn't. And he has a good pass in him. That's why it's frustrating, because every now and again we see the glimpse. And I'm like, if you could do that more regularly, you would literally be the best player in the entire world. Because if that guy could pass as well, you could be the best player, maybe after Messi, that the world has
ever seen. I don't even need this man to finish. I just need him to pass. That's it.
That's exactly it, honestly. It's crazy. But guys, Lewis, I want a score prediction from you, and then we'll get to Alex, because he kind of, had something in his basket, I think, at the start. He hinted at it a little bit like that. But Lewis, what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
1-0 Chelsea, 0-0. I'm not sure. I can't give you a score prediction, man. I can't lie. What score prediction do I want? 1-0 Chelsea. I feel that's the best one. I can't predict this one. I really can't. But 1-0 Chelsea, innit? It's only because I don't want to say 0-0, but 1-0 Chelsea.
Fair dues. Alex, what about you?
The score prediction, I'm tossing between 1-0, 2-0 Chelsea. I'm not considering a Real Madrid win. I think the thing about basket for that is that I think this is going to be quite a convincing win for Chelsea. I think they're going to sail through to the final. Yeah, I really do think so. I think Chelsea showed how strong they are against Real Madrid's strongest assets. And genuinely, if Real Madrid's best wild card, if their best thing to unlock this defense is a 30-year-old Eden Hazard who's played 9 times this season, then I think they're quite drastically on the ropes, especially if they're talking him up in the media right now. If that's what they're leaning towards, I'm back in Chelsea.
Zidane literally just said, first of all, he said, it isn't too soon to play Sergio Ramos tomorrow. And then he says, we are going to need Eden, whether that means, he plays or not. And then he says, all the players that are here with us are ready. We are in the Champions League semis. We are going to the death. I mean, that makes sense. That is the kind of approach I want from Chelsea too.
It's better than last week when he said Chelsea are a team that attacks and defends. Those eye-opening words.
It's like, Michael Owen, is that you? But Alex, just did you give a score prediction as well, or did you so far just say convincing?
I said 1-0. I'll go 2-0 for the fun. 2-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, because 1-0 wouldn't be convincing.
Exactly.
I would honestly, a 2-0 win would be so good because just imagine it, Lewis. Imagine we go 1-0 up, say, I don't know, half an hour in or whatever, then like second half, blah, blah, and then like around 75, 80 minutes, we get a 2-0. And a 2-0 means like we're done, right? Because that means they need to score 2. Because scoring a late 1-0 doesn't really change anything. If they get a goal, they still take it to extra time. If we are 2-1 up and they get a late goal, they still they win, right? So being 1-0 up after like half an hour and then making it 2-0, honestly, the scenes would be unbelievable because my heart is not made for like holding on to result late on. Like it ruins me. My score prediction is still going to be a 2-1 though. I just hope it's going to be like Matisse said. I hope it's going to be us scoring the 2-1 rather than going 2-0 up and then trying to hold on to save our lives, because I just don't think I can handle it. But, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very long stream, longer than I expected, to be honest, because I still need to get dinner and I need to go to my mate's house to watch a Champions League Semi Final in an hour. So, we need to sort things quick. Ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in today. I really do appreciate Lewis for hopping on late, Alex, obviously, for being here the whole time, because I said to him yesterday, about 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and look at us, an hour and 40 minutes. So I appreciate it a lot. Check him out on Twitter for that, at EuroExpert, of course, for brilliant insight into the game all over Europe, in particular with a few special leagues. What was it? The Dutch League and some other one?
I've got to read Brad. I'm all of Europe here now. All of Europe. Czech League, Spanish League, all of it.
Wait for next season. He's going to be telling you about the Mexican League as well.
Absolutely.
You never know. Lewis as well, of course. Subscribe to Lewis at Carefree Lewis G's. Link is down in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. We're about 400 away from 10,000 subscribers at this point, and we have nearly 300 people watching. So if there's only like 100 of you or something that are not subscribed yet, there might be. You never know. Just go down below, hit that massive big red subscribe button. Get subscribed. We want to hit 10,000 subscribers as soon as we possibly can. Smash the like button as well. I'd massively appreciate it. But we're going to leave it here. Huge game tomorrow, and that's an understatement in all honesty, because it's not just huge, it's our biggest game in 7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. We're going to do this tomorrow, and I'll see you, tomorrow for the player ratings, but next time.